Derrick Kuzak and born and bred in the Detroit area. Catholic education throughout all of my academic years. So St. Veronica in East Detroit, now East Point. Notre Dame High School, which at that time was in Harper Woods, now is in Pontiac. And then to the University of Detroit, where I got all three of my degrees, bachelor's in electrical engineering and master's degree in electrical engineering in 1973, and then a doctorate in systems engineering in 1976. After graduate school, spent a little bit of time in the aerospace industry and was challenged by aerospace, but really loved automobiles, grew up racing go-karts. So I decided to come back to the automotive industry. Spent a little bit of time at Chrysler, but then moved to Ford and spent 33 years of my career at Ford Motor Company. Started as a research engineer in the scientific labs, then spent time in just about all of the systems of a vehicle as basically an engineer and learned to be a good engineer. And then finally ended my career in several executive positions, Vice President of Product Development in Europe, Vice President of Product Development for the Americas, and then the last 6 years of my career as the Group Vice President of Product Development for Ford Motor Company. And there I was honored to lead a team of 18,000 designers, stylists, engineers, and technicians in developing and designing Ford's vehicles globally. So it was a really great and fun and challenging position. And then retired from Ford in April of 2012. In looking at the quality of education, there's probably a number of ways of trying to assess it, but maybe I'll speak to three. The first is third-party assessments, and probably the most comprehensive and recognized assessment is the U.S. News and World Report ranking of about, I think, 1,800 universities across the U.S. It's an annual ranking, and consistently the university does exceptionally well, ranked in the top tier of Midwest regional universities. And importantly for the College of Engineering, that college and that program does very well, most recently ranked 104 amongst universities. So that's one assessment, a very objective third-party assessment. Another I can provide is from my years at Ford and as an executive at Ford, and how a University of Detroit engineering degree was viewed there. Probably the strongest statement there is that when you look at all the universities and all the graduates from universities that are populating the engineering and product development team at Ford Motor Company, the highest number of alumni from any university serving as engineers at Ford are from the University of Detroit Mercy. I think that speaks strongly to the value that Ford places on a UDM engineering degree. Also speaks strongly to how well the applicants do in the very rigorous selection process that potential new hires go through at Ford Motor Company. It is pretty rigorous, a lot of testing, a lot of interviewing, and clearly a large number of UDM graduates are hired by Ford. And then the third measure, and probably the most significant one personally, is what that degree meant to me. And certainly the technical training, and just as importantly, the ethics and value of Catholic education couldn't have been more important to me, certainly personally, family perspective, and professionally. I found that when I first entered the workforce as a new hire, I was able to get on board and contribute as quickly and as significantly as graduates from any other university. But probably just as importantly, over my lifetime, the university provided me the technical background, the intellectual curiosity, and basically the desire to continuously improve. And that need for continuous improvement is fundamental, particularly in a career like engineering where technology is so constantly changing. So on a third party, a career, and a personal perspective, the education in the years at UDM could have been more important. I was clearly interested from the start in engineering, and so my assessment was around engineering programs, and frankly wanted to stay local. strong ties to my family and a very large extended family, and was looking then at schools like University of Michigan, Michigan State, UDM, some of the schools, for example, in the Chicago area. And the starting point for me was the quality of the engineering program. But what was also important to me was having an experience that was going to be very personal. I like to interact with people, and so I was looking for not a big campus, but frankly a smaller campus. So one of the drivers was the number of students, student to faculty ratio that existed at that point at UDM. And then finally, probably the most deciding factor was a Catholic university. My education at that point had been all the way from elementary through high school Catholic schools, and then was very attracted to find and excited to find a Catholic university providing a strong engineering program and a program that provided the quality of education and the personal touch that I found in my research of UDM. Part of the consideration of a Catholic university, importantly, is values and ethics. But when people think of values and ethics, they're certainly important for your personal and your family life. But I found over the course of my career how important values are in a fulfilling and successful professional career. And let me just give you a few examples of that. When you think of ethics and values, let's take service. And certainly you can think of service in terms of service to your community, to your church, and to those in need. But it also becomes extremely important in terms of your professional career, because service in business translates to service to your end customer, and an all-consuming desire to provide that customer the best product at the highest value. Service also translates to being a great teammate and servicing the members of your team to ensure that the team delivers on its commitments. So service to customer and teammates in a business environment translates very well from what people normally think of the ethical or value meaning of service. Take another example, integrity. Integrity in a business environment means very simply, say what you're going to do and do what you say. That means delivering on your commitments. And frankly, nothing can be more important in a business environment than delivering on your commitments, particularly, again, when you're working in teams and working across functions. And that delivery ethos, that work ethic ethos, really engenders trust, which is so important in large organizations. And then finally, the last ethic that I'll mention, or value that I'll mention, is humility. Humility in a business environment means a recognition that your product can always improve, and you personally can always improve in how you perform. And it's a devotion to improving that product by listening careful to your customers, taking that feedback back and improving the product you work on. And then personally, it means listening to your fellow teammates, listening to your supervisors to know how you can improve, taking that seriously, and then devoting yourself to continuous improvement. I've always been inspired by a quote from Thomas Edison, who probably is one of our greatest engineers and greatest inventors. And even at 80 years old, he said, one of the excitements and joy of life is knowing that you don't know 1/80th or 1/millionth of 1% of anything. And that's how he devoted himself to continuous improvement, and all of us should. When you put that all together, I think one of the competitive advantages of Catholic universities like UDM is that reinforcement of those kind of values, because they enrich your personal and your family life, but they're critical to being a good engineer and a good business person also.